Hi, welcome back to Smith and Grezzy. We thought we'd have a little chat tonight, post areas 2025, and just see how things went, and a few other little bits and bats of news and events that have been happening. Um, we've been busy, haven't we, Sandy? But I've particularly enjoyed the area. I deputised for Paul Wiley of Hucknall and Limby, took them to Nember and the first section in the Midlands on introduction, elegy and Breeze. Can maybe talk about that, but I uh, I particularly liked the fourth section piece this year.
Yeah, I mean the reaction. I think overall, I've spoken to a lot of people about it. We can go through these section by section just
Yeah,
briefly. Um, Andrea Price's piece, "I Daedalus," in the fourth section has gone down really, really well,
yeah,
which is not a surprise because it is a
no,
belting piece.
it's well
Um,
crafted, isn't it?
yeah, it is. We talked about this before, but when they were all chosen and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just eminently suitable for that section,
yeah,
and it's full of the stuff that they like, and that tests good basic playing, and it's gone down
yeah,
well.
yeah. It has. There've been
I think
some
there's
good
been
performances as well.
there they have. I think the bands have enjoyed doing it, which
Yeah,
obviously makes a difference at that entry level.
yeah,
Third section, Arkansas, Jakob de Haan, same sort
yeah,
of thing. Descriptive music. It's the bands I've heard doing it and talked to people who have been preparing it. They've thoroughly enjoyed it.
yeah.
Friendly takeover. There was a few misgivings about that, and I'm still not quite sure. Um, there was this sort of slight controversy saying that it was written as a wind band piece and transcribed for a brass band. Then I've
It's the
seen,
other way, isn't it?
from what I gather from the person who said they commissioned it, Michael Bach, said this is wrong. It was conceived as a brass band piece, and it was then subsequently done for wind band. Either way, I don't think it really matters that much. It was well written anyway.
No,
It's quite normal. If you have call it an arrangement, for example. Let's take an
yeah,
example of overture arrangements or orchestral type arrangements and stuff. As
yeah,
long as they're done competently and well, yes, the certain colours go, but it
yeah.
makes another set of colours, and
It
the
does.
music is decent music. And the band seemed to like that one as well. With this, there's a bit of a sort of modern feel to some of it.
Yeah.
I've been asked a few times about can we have an old one next year, in the second section. Um,
Right. That's
so
interesting.
for sort of and a few suggestions as well. The two the two sections which seem to have caused the most stramash, good Scottish word there, um, is Introduction, Elegy and Caprice, Morley Calvert, and Diversions, Derek Bourgeois. It was quite strange that when the pieces were announced and right up until maybe 5 or 6 weeks before the areas, there was a lot of quite ill-informed stuff, especially about the Morley Calvert piece. Too easy,
Well,
nothing in it, not hard
yeah.
enough.
I
Um,
can back you up there because I went along to, like I say, to Hucknall and Limby and took them. And the first time they got it out of the packet was my first rehearsal. And a few of them came up to me and said, "Oh, we've heard this is really easy." I said, "Well, let's see if you're saying the same thing after
okay,
this rehearsal."
yeah,
No, they weren't.
no, no,
No.
no. It was quite strange. I mean, I did have a bit of a giggle, and it was quite fun watching the keyboard warriors
Yeah.
um, saying that there was nothing in to test the bands and all this sort of thing. And this again, this breaks down into
Yeah.
this idea which I really detest about technical being fast notes,
Yeah.
black notes, and musical being melodies and slow.
Yes.
It's not. It's and picking notes off. So there's nothing more technical than those the top B flat and the soprano and
Oh,
the
yeah.
octave lower in the rep and all that. That's technical.
I did
That's
feel sorry for Sops, but the lady who played for me did quite well, and
yeah.
and I sort of let her find her own salvation with it, basically.
Yeah,
Um, but the thing about that piece, Sandy, we never stopped finding things in that score
yeah.
all the way
It,
through, right up to the night before. Kept finding things.
again, he's a proper composer,
He is.
and the piece, yes, it's stylistically, that was where the problems were, because it was of a style, and this was deliberate. Okay, this was picked to try and ascertain whether bands can still cope with this style. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a crash bang wallop piece. It's yes, there are some loud passages, whether you want to call them 40 or fortissimo, whatever else. But it's a Mozart 40, and it's a uh, dynamic. I don't mean Mozart's 40th symphony. I mean
Yeah.
Mozart type of 40.
In other words,
Um,
take it down a little bit,
yeah,
play it lighter.
it's the light
Yeah.
style and stuff. And this
Yeah.
is what we're not used to doing. This we're used to this crash bang wallop. Let's just thrash it
Yeah.
and show off. And there was quite a few bands I heard performances that fell into that trap.
Yeah, they did.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah.
But I think the piece was eminent. Yeah, it did prove a point. I think these pieces have to be hard. We're going to talk later on about the pieces for the finals. And we will wait till then to talk about when the first section started back in the early 90s. We'll talk about the sort of repertoire that we're playing there. We have to get back to that. We have to re-establish the standard of the first section. We've talked about this before.
It's been down-dumbed, hasn't it, over the last few years?
It has been dumbed down.
Well, the last decade, so
well, the last sort of, I mean, and I've talked about this before, I reckon of the sort of 20 years of this century, about half at least of those first section area test pieces, I don't think were fit for purpose. Not that some of them weren't decent music, but they weren't fit for that contest.
Yeah.
That's at least half. And there's various reasons for that, which we might go into.
Yeah.
So I think it caused problems, and bands don't like the sort of playing that's involved in those pieces. Hence, that's why it is good for them, is because it's establishing better playing standards, hopefully, longer term.
Absolutely.
And diversions.
Well, here we go. I mean, I heard quite a lot of diversions efforts, and I've got to say, not one of them came anywhere near matching that one of Fairies at London.
Well, again, this piece was chosen with a couple of things in mind. Again, stylistically, it's a quirky, different sort of piece than some of Derek Bourgeois' other stuff like Blitz or the concertos, the concerto number 1 and 2, the concerto grosso, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's full of this sardonic wit, this sort of quirky, tongue-in-cheek stuff. And again, I think bands were looking to try and batter it into submission in places, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And then the second movement is a monster, and
that's going to go down as one of the most difficult second quiet movements I've ever played.
Yeah, I mean, all those filigree sort of parts, the solo cornet, the soprano especially, obviously, everything about it, it's brilliantly written, and it's the sort of music that bands don't like. And again, that was one where the keyboard warriors were, wearing their fingertips out beforehand, and then about 3 or 4 weeks before the areas, it all dried up. There was no one suddenly thinking that this was going to be a walk in the park.
I'll tell you what was nice, Sandy. The winner of the soloist prize in Yorkshire was one and only Alan Morrison.
Yeah,
he played really well.
I went to the rehearsal the night before with Hammonds for a listen in St Paul's Hall in Huddersfield on the Ring Road there, and I walked back to the car park with Alan, and he played brilliantly, But again, it's old head, he was he knew exactly what to do with it, and it was brilliant to see him, and he was obviously relishing it. He loved that piece,
Yeah.
And you could tell he played. He played like he loved doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of people I heard play it sounded like they hated it,
Yeah.
because it's so hard.
It came across that way, the few I heard.
It did, and it's a different style of playing than they're used to. They want to be banging out top Zs,
Yeah.
thrashing away long notes and squiddling about on semi-quavers and stuff, high up all the time, jumping up off their chairs and stuff.
Back in the day, Sandy, Alan Wycherley was the master of that piece.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I'd have loved to have heard Brian Evans play it.
Those sort of different school, isn't it? Different, Brian Evans, Roy Rowe.
Yeah,
Pete
Roy,
Roberts,
another one, yeah.
Which was great that day. Really great.
Outstanding.
So I think, again, it was a very interesting sort of outcome. One of the things that was slightly disappointing was, again, it seems to have cropped up where bands were using mutes in the middle of the band where there are absolutely none marked.
How can we stop that?
You can't stop it.
It's blatant and it's wrong.
I know it's blatant and wrong, but if you're getting away with it, then you're going to carry on, aren't you? For me, it's an admission of failure because you can't play quiet. Don't BS me with this idea that, we're looking for a different colour and all that. That's nonsense. It's only done to hide the fact that your band can't play quiet.
You see, as well, on the other flip side of it, for a judge in a box and he can't see them mutes, and he thinks, that you've got to be damn sure to put this as muted as it shouldn't be.
Yeah, you have, because if you're wrong, then you're going to get that thrown right back in your face.
Yeah.
And these mutes these days can be designed so that they don't really sound like they're there.
But like you say, it's an admission of failure in my book.
I sincerely think so, because if it's not, if people say, no, we did it for this reason, that, I think that's nonsense. I think, why do you have to do it at all? Play quiet. Control your instrument.
Yeah.
I'm sure the players can do it.
Absolutely.
It's that maybe a lack of trust, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand. This tampering with stuff like this is unnecessary. You go back to the Fairies recording, they didn't do it.
No. It was just class.
Yeah. But again, good piece. And I know there were some other slightly strange results on the surface, but we're not going to get into any.
No.
It does bring us on to, though, the adjudication. There have been some concerns raised. And I mean, we've talked in the past about what the musical credentials of judges should be for these contests. And there seems to be people, we know people will always complain about results when they think that their band has been hard done by, and they will look for excuses.
Yeah.
And things. But there have been, a few, and I'm talking about lower down the sections as well, not necessarily top section, where there have been some slightly strange placings of one or two bands.
Yeah.
And I've heard these recordings, I'm thinking, well, if there was 10 better performances of that, then there must have been some bloody good playing going on. I don't know. It brings us back to this thing about... Should judges? Where do we get them? We have no judges. I don't think, hardly any at all, from outside the small, tiny world of brass bands.
No.
And we talked about this before about judges having. I would love to hear the opinion of Ian Bousfield or Alison Balsam.
Yeah.
Or. There's a myriad of professional players that, whether they would do it or not, we know this is a totally different thing. And if Alison Balsam can turn out and get, $5,000 for playing the Haydn trumpet concerto, she's never going to turn up to bloody Bradford and judge this first section
No.
for 150 quid.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But you have to question: do we have the best people doing this? I would love to see some professional musicians who are operating at a higher level than us. Why don't we ask them? Is it because we're distrustful? So you get this all the time, don't you? Oh, yeah, such and such a body. What do they know about brass bands? Well, they're a brass player.
He knows a lot about being a musician, though.
Yeah, and they're playing, daily. Their day job is putting air through an instrument.
Yeah.
And doing it at that level every day of the week. Surely we can learn from those people.
Absolutely.
And so it's either distrust or are some people who have got the gigs already apprehensive of widening the net a bit because they might mean that they're going to lose out on adjudicating.
What slightly perturbed me, Sandy, whenever you're involved in a contest, I tend to look up credentials of judges.
Yeah.
Most of them, I know them, but now and again I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So I tend to look, and what gets me is that people are judging above the section that they've either played or conducted at.
Mm-hmm.
I find that a little bit offside.
Well, see, you go back to this point that we've made time and time again about what can your musical credentials consist of? You have to, playing. Playing's the first one. We've said it's the hardest one to fake. Conducting, at a decent level, doing decent things, not just contesting, but other stuff as well.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Broader range of stuff. And adjudicating. Adjudicating is the easiest one to fake. Let's be brutally honest.
Yeah.
And we've had this before. I don't know if I keep using the rugby analogy, and it's going to probably come back in a bit with this as well. But I love the rugby. I love watching. I don't know terrible amount about it. I would be absolutely bloody useless as a coach because I don't know enough. I haven't done it.
Which is going back to what I'm saying. They're judging above the level of what they've ever played or conducted at. Hey, Sandy, you sent me some lists a couple of weeks ago of adjudications that had happened before the millennium in the year 2000. Do you want to expand on that?
I was just curious because people were talking about what have these people done? What have these adjudicators? Where have they come from? What are they? Are they just sort of homemade adjudicators, or do they have any background in equality and playing and conducting and such? And I thought, I wonder what it was like going back. And I had a look from 1999 backwards. Just took that date as a round place to start. And going through the sections, I mean, I read you this list, didn't I? I'll read you some out now. And just, these are, it's not everybody that did it, but if this is 1999 backwards to 1992 in Yorkshire area. I just picked Yorkshire as a... James Gourley, Gough Richards, David Reid, John Berryman, David Reid again. There's 4 or 5 there, right? Big hitters, big names, classy people, right? Section 2, okay?
Yeah.
This is going back from 1994 backwards. They're not in consecutive years, but these are a few of the names that I've judged in the second section in Yorkshire. Roy Newsom, Frank Renton, Richard Evans, Roy Newsom, David Reid, Nigel Bordis, John Berryman, Geoffrey Brand, Eric Ball.
Wow.
Third section. Second section. Third section. John Berryman, Roy Newsom, John Berryman, David Reid, Trevor Walmsley, Walter Hargreaves, Arthur Kenny, Walter Hargreaves.
Wow.
Proper.
They've got credentials, every one of them.
Every one of them's got the T-shirt, right? Yep. Fourth section. Jeff Whittam, Alan Lawton, Derek Broadbent, John Berryman, Jeff Whittam, Roy Newsom, David Reid, Arthur Butterworth, John Berryman, Jim Scott, Derek Broadbent, David Reid, Geoffrey Brand, Walter Hargreaves. That's the quality of people that we had, right? Yep. The same names crop up time and time again.
They do.
Right? It's not being shared out just to tick any boxes or give people a go or whatever. We have proper experienced people you would trust that have been there and done that.
Absolutely. They're just top of the game, them guys.
There was one, I checked the Northwest, and basically it's the same names all the time, same ones, which is fine. There were people you could trust. There was one second section contest in the Northwest that was judged by two people in the box. Those two people were Major Peter Parks and Roy Newsom.
Wow.
Right, in the second section. So if you're going to argue with them, or those people that I've just read out, then,
Yeah.
we maybe just need to look at, picking
the top people again.
People. Yeah. We're talking about people who have been there and achieved at much higher levels.
It's the judging at.
Yeah.
Which fits my point.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we.
So going back to this year's area, 2025.
Yeah, and I mean, you look back at some of the things that are written comments. There's a few social media. I know we have to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, but there was comments online since the areas about they either being too derogatory or too bland, right?
Yeah.
So you can't have it both ways, right? Because if the comments are too uniformly praiseworthy, then bands complain. Well, I can't understand why we were 10th because the remarks are brilliant. So you get complaints at that. If judges criticise them, and I mean, I've always done it. If you're going to place a band 10th out of 12, you need them to know why.
Yes.
Right? So, which may even end up in stating the bleeding obvious that this passage was just not together, or there was too many split notes, or whatever else is happening. The basic stuff that we're trying to, get right, obviously. So, but it's no good saying, yes, that was lovely, and letter D was great, and, well done, the SOP, and all that stuff, that 11th.
Yeah.
Well, hang on, it doesn't match up. So you can't have it both ways.
No, you can't.
But there's people saying, you have to be encouraging and all that. Yes, I get that, especially sort of lower down. But you have to be honest as well. And there is a bit of it's hard for some people to take.
Yeah.
Right?
I've heard a few comments, Sandy, about the spoken comments from stage.
Yeah. That's another one that's come back to me, and there have been some that you could actually watch as they were being done on stage, live sort of thing, live results and stuff like that.
At the Midlands, Sandy, Derek Renshaw stood up and talked, and I like Derek a lot, and he just spoke the truth. Right. And he stood there and told them, you all thought this piece was easy. Well, I think you'll all agree now it's not.
Right.
And he was commending the music panel for picking it. It's a great choice, all this sort of thing. And he left you feeling, oh, right, yeah, you're right. No, nobody played it really.
Yeah.
If we're really brutally honest. And I thought, I can take that.
Absolutely.
No problem. But then on the flip side, I'm not saying it were at that contest. At other contests, I've sat there and listened to every single band, and then the judges will come on. You've all played remarkably well today, and I'm like,
I think this is the thing that people have talked to me about it as well. Say you've all done very well, and this sort of thing, where I don't know, pick an instrument, flugel, right?
Yeah.
Well done. Really hard flugel part today. Flugel players, give yourselves a round of applause, and then you get a sort of beer-soaked round of applause at the results. It's a bit patronising, Or, I mean, I had one comment I was told from a person who I have the utmost respect for, was that the adjudicators spoke at the results like they were addressing a classroom of naughty 6-year-olds.
Oh dear.
and sort of, well, you've got to do this and that, and and all that, and there are ways and means of doing it, but it's a difficult one. I know.
They'll never get it completely right because it's
No, they won't.
impossible.
And it's a hard one, but I just think this idea, you can't have it both ways.
No.
Right? You can't expect not to be criticised and then question why your remarks are so good and you ended up 9th, 10th, 11th.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways. You have got to, as an adjudicator, you have got to justify, and same with the other end of the table, you've got to justify why you're giving that band first or second or third.
Yeah.
Right? And if the band you're giving third is to why you're giving them third and not second or not fourth, to be fair. You can't have it both ways. There needs to be a little bit more growing up done, maybe. Maybe times have changed. People are expecting things to be a bit more. It's like the school sports day. Everybody gets a prize and a clap and everything else. I sort of get that. But we need to be able to take the opinion of good judges for what it is. And it's not meant with malice or anything. If things are wrong, then, and that judge has placed you 12 out of 15, then they need to justify why they've done that.
Yeah,
otherwise they're not doing the job properly.
No.
So don't complain about it afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
One thing I've noticed with all these areas, and we're going to bang this drum again, we've got to change or die. And by that, I mean, this pyramid structure is all wrong. At the top, we need lesser bands, and we need it fattening out at the bottom.
You mean you need less number of bands?
Yes.
Yeah.
Less number of bands.
Less number of bands.
We need
and a proper pyramid thing.
Yeah, absolutely. If you build an upside-down pyramid, it'll fall over and crash and burn, and that's what we're in danger of with banding.
Yeah, I mean, I have said some figures, which I will leave to the people who are already sussing this out and are going to talk about this properly. The lower ends in some areas are dying on their backside, and yet the top section has, a dozen, 12 bands, 15 bands. It's not feasible.
No.
I'm sorry, it's just not. And what you're getting all the time is test pieces. What do we pick? What do we choose? And we know there are certain restraints. Yeah. More restraints in this country than anywhere else.
Because of the numbers.
Do we keep dumbing down? Do we keep making the test pieces at the top end easier because the bands can't cope? Or do we try and maintain the standard of pieces we've had and reorganise? The biggest problem you've got is it's turkeys and Christmas, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
This
has long been the problem, hasn't it?
And again, that's the problem you've got about changing things. I mean, I know there are people who have been trying to get debate going on this for a long time, and it's the apathy and it's sort of it just cheeses you off. We have to have a very open, honest, frank, adult debate about changing this because it's not working.
Yeah.
Right? Papering over cracks all the time.
Yeah.
The way we're told that this has to be done is through the regional committees initially, and then what they call the National Forum, which is basically the meeting of 8 regional secretaries who discuss the ideas that are brought to them by the member bands, and then proposals are taken from them to capital promotions to be either acted upon or suggested or ditched or whatever else. Yeah. But at the moment, there doesn't seem, there's a few things. We've talked about this before as well, and trying to find out when these AGMs are is like a nightmare. It's like, bloody secret society.
Yeah.
And they will say that all the bands are informed and blah, blah, blah. But I never see anything. online or about when these meetings are taking place? Can we have your ideas? Do we want to discuss them? We're going to take things, you know. I mean, I put something up a couple of days ago on one of these threads going on saying, look, if you want change, I have been told, this is how you go about it. And then I had someone, strangely, we just talked about Alan Morrison, come and say, I've done this, and it got knocked back.
Yeah.
Well, and he says it was like knocking against a brick wall.
Yeah.
And I think I wrote back on it, openly and said, well, if that's what you're getting, then we need to change the bricks in the wall.
Yeah.
But the problem you've got, again, turkeys and Christmas, we said, and we talked before about this idea of percussion. And our friend Duncan Beckley went and spoke to someone about some ideas about talking about percussion. How do we get it better for bands?
Well, we had Phil Goodwin on, didn't we, on the last podcast?
Yeah.
And it's really worth a listen. He spoke a lot of sense.
He does, because he's been there, got the T-shirt and all that. But Duncan was told by this guy who's, well in all this sort of stuff. Percussion. Well, my band's all right. We've got 3.
Oh, God.
So it's the I'm all right Jack syndrome is just nuts.
Yeah.
How can we help? How can we change things? What I'm worried about now is the fact that if things get knocked back at regional level, then you've got to ask, why are you knocking this back? Why don't you like it? Debate it, get involved. People are going to have to get themselves involved in these bodies. If they want change to happen, it's no good. It doesn't cut it just to moan on Facebook.
No.
Right? It's pub talk. Right? It's like moaning in the pub afterwards, and it's got about the same value. Right?
Yeah.
People are going to have to go to these meetings, get themselves on the committees. If they think change is for the better, and there's a proper adult debate about things to change certain things, then and then things will be acted upon. If we're just going the status quo, well, this idea that it's not going to change. It is changing. It's getting worse.
Yeah.
Right? The whole standard of everything is getting worse.
It's dropping.
And unless people wake up, you've got 2 test species then that were sort of 40-year-old, and they cause carnage. So we need to wise up. We need to admit where we're going wrong and what the hell can we do to fix it. Right?
Yeah.
We won't have all the answers, but we need to try something. Things need to change.
Yeah.
And it's all, to me, it's all about the standard of the playing.
I fear, Sandy, committees at this level, like you say, it's like turkeys voting for Christmas. Sometimes a bit of a dictatorship needs to be had because somebody has got to stand up and say, let's draw a line through all this, reorganise the whole lot and get it sorted out because it's wrong.
Time's running out. You see, you look back at the first section was started in 1992, I think, something like that. That was a big change, huge change, right?
Yeah.
But it happened. The world didn't come to a halt. We didn't collapse in a heap. It was done. And that was it. And we got on with it.
Yeah.
Right? But bands are obsessed with this idea of we're championship section, we're first section, we're second section, whatever it is. And again, we've talked about this umpteen times. When was the last time somebody came and says, I want to engage the band for, something. What section are you in?
Yeah.
Nobody gives a monkeys. No. We used to make up things when I was at Grimy. We'd won the Volvo European Masters and all this. Oh, brilliant, well done. We just made things up.
Yeah.
People didn't care. People are not interested. Banders are.
Yeah.
There's a far, far bigger picture here, and we're not seeing it. And, there's debate at the minute. Again, going back to the rugby analogy, I was just watching something earlier today. One of these guys on YouTube that I'm subscribed to, and he's talking about the Champions Cup that's going on at the minute, and it's been reorganised and sort of tickled with, the format.
Yeah.
And he said, it's not working, we're going to have to change it. But rugby, they probably will change it, right?
Yeah.
But at least there's debate going on and things are being talked about and ideas. They won't all be brilliant. Our ideas won't all be brilliant.
No.
But we've got to get some ideas about how we do it. Nobody wants to change anything that affects their own little
Organisation.
bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What does my band stand to gain or lose because of this?
Yeah.
We have to do something. It's no good moaning on Facebook. We're going to have to get to these committees, and a lot of them now are run online. And again, we're talking about stuff we've already talked about. The Yorkshire Committee last year did an online meeting, and apart from the bands that were represented on the committee, there were 4 bands tuned into that Zoom meeting. 4, right? And then people moan about, well, why nothing happens, nothing ever goes on. Why don't they listen? Well, get on the bloody meetings then.
Yeah.
Do something about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you disagree with things we are saying, disagree with them. Right? But do something about it. Don't just sit.
Now then, a really serious, if that wasn't serious enough, this is a very serious matter for me. Safeguarding.
Unfortunately, there's things raised their head. I don't know exactly what the answers are. There are things that could be done.
I recently put up a question on this Smith and Grezzy Facebook site, and I basically asked, is it about time that we had enhanced DBS certificates for conductors, teachers, teachers of bands? I've had a mixed response, but a lot of people are saying, but you won't, unless they've been caught, it'll not come up on a DBS. Now then, my point is, an enhanced DBS could act as a deterrent. Because some people think they're trying to make a living out of music and behaving appallingly.
Yeah, I mean, I work in a school. I have an enhanced DBS, obviously. Yeah. You foster kids.
Yeah.
You have an enhanced DBS.
Yeah.
It's just part of the territory of doing these type of things when you're working with underage people.
Yeah.
Yes, an enhanced DBS won't. I get the points that are being made about. You could get an enhanced DBS today, and tomorrow you could go and do something dodgy. I get that. I understand that, but you're right. God, if it only protects one young person, surely it's worth it, innit?
Innit just.
But I mean, the case we're really, the main case we're talking about is the guy that's come across from America.
Yeah.
Absolutely bloody scandalous.
Yeah.
And that brave young woman to come back, and God, it's how much courage does it take to do that? And she has to be applauded, and he has to be absolutely vilified.
Yeah.
And I understand the allegedly stuff, but if this is proven to be true, then he's the last.
See, Sandy, the lawsuit has been taken out on the Salvation Army over in America.
Mm-hmm.
What we have to be careful about is that somebody don't take a lawsuit out against British banding.
Well, I mean,
we Brass Bands England, to the credit, do a lot of good work.
They do. Yeah.
in helping people with information regarding safeguarding, sorting out DBS checks and all this. But it can't just stop there. If they're offering them services, they've got to go that bit further. And if there's people involved in banding that they well know have got problems, everybody should be notified that, you might just want to steer clear of this.
To steer clear. Yeah, you're right.
Because you can't just say, we just issue forms out and we act as support. One day somebody will turn around and cut your legs off and say, I'm using Brass Bands England. They are out there offering these services, but I had a lovely reply from Mike Kilroy, and he was basically, they can't do much about it.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm certainly not chastising them in
No,
any way. They are trying, and it's a minefield. This, but
but we've got to have a body in England, and I would suggest it is Brass Bands England because they've got a lot of credibility, who can handle cases like this if there's reports of wrongdoing, bad behaviour against anything like this, abhorrent behaviour. People need to be told.
well, I mean, you told me about the online course you went on.
Oh, oh my God. I went on this course, Sandy, and I have to do it regular as part of my duties as a foster parent. And it was going on about most sexual abuse starts from something very innocent,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like an acorn.
Right,
It will, they said to me, it is 90 odd percent certain that they will move on to something else.
right.
And we've got to spot these signs that something is going on, something is not right. And, like, they're not my figures, those. They're from the NSPCC, and they are 90% certain that they will move on to something else.
So people that end up, God, it just makes me bloody skin crawl talking
I
about
mean,
it. People that end up sexually abusing minors
yeah,
start off low scale
yeah, very.
grooming.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. It's
yeah. I
not
mean,
just grooming, Sandy. It can be all manner of things. Um, but
I know it's. I
it
know we have to
will,
be.
for sure, move on.
I know we have to be careful, and we're getting
Yeah,
ourselves into a pickle here with it. But I just feel bloody angry that that because we both work with vulnerable kids,
yeah, we do.
right? Uh, and the thought that you know some people might be trying to or have tried to exploit these kids in any sort of way whatsoever, any
Yeah,
child. I don't know what we can do. I don't know how we, there should be more sharing of information.
yeah,
Organisations need to be more open about listening to concerns
yeah,
about people. I mean, you hear rumours, there's things knocking about. You don't know what the hell's really going on, and I know it's the guilt, innocent before proven
yeah,
guilty stuff
yeah.
and all
I'm a
that
big
jazz.
believer, big
Yeah,
believer.
yeah. But when it's concerns about stuff like this, I mean, I don't know. What do we do? Do we? How far do you take it? How far do you take this enhanced DBS thing as a start? Is it for conductors? Is it for anybody in a band if they
Well,
have an underage person in it? I don't know. It's a
I've had
difficult one.
an enhanced DBS for years,
Yeah.
and um, I've conducted bands, so I'm comfortable because there's lots of people there. And
Mm-hmm.
then I once had to do a percussion sectional with one percussionist, but I made sure there was somebody else there with me.
Yeah.
She was a
Yeah.
female, and I made sure I covered myself. And you've got to do this. The thing is, enhanced DBSs don't tell you everything.
No.
It's only at that moment the test is done.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to be naughty and you know that you possibly might be making a bit of money out of banding, adjudicating, conducting, doing teaching, it should be a deterrent. The thought of having an enhanced DBS. If I get caught out doing this, I better not do it. To me,
Yeah.
like you say, if it stops one child or one young person, that's
Suffering
got to be
like
worth.
that young
Yeah,
lady. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
got
we
to be
have to
worth it.
try and do something. And I have seen online people say, and rightly be torn down by other people saying, this is Facebook's, it's not the place to be talking about this.
Mm.
Well, it bloody is, I'll tell you.
Oh, it is.
And to be fair, that person, that bloke was roasted.
Yeah,
And they
Rightly
said,
so.
no, this is exactly the right place. We need to talk about this.
Yeah.
We need to get it out. We get, you know, I mean, we can go on and on. I just think, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Got to stop.
horrendous situation, and we
And
have to do anything we can to root out anyone who either has had or wants to have the intention to act in the same way.
unfortunately, banding is littered with these stories, and it's got to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I
So
think enough said.
that's enough of that, Sandy. I needed to get that off my chest, and I know
Yeah.
you did too. Moving on, the 2025 national finals pieces have been announced, and I like these. And I'm
It's
not
just,
just saying that. There's some quality music here.
yeah, there's the whole thinking behind it are there's a couple of anniversaries.
Yeah.
Eddie Gregson's 80th birthday.
He
And
doesn't look it, does he?
no, he doesn't. No.
No way.
And the anniversary of Sir Arthur Bliss.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about this long and hard. And there are a couple of pieces in there that people won't know.
Yeah.
They will do. But there's some decent stuff. Just we won't talk too much about them at the minute.
Yeah.
But you've got basically, and we keep banging on about this all the time, good quality source material, right?
Yeah.
4-section Eddie's Partita early work.
It's
Typical
a good piece,
Gregson
this.
style. It's a great piece, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just, you know, again we're talking, you know, top-notch composer, top-notch.
Absolutely.
Right? And these are the guys we need to be championing.
Yeah.
And then in the third section, we've got this. There's a new arrangement of an Arthur Bliss. I think it was TV music from the Royal Palaces, which was
This is the one I don't know.
No, it's very Arthur Bliss sounding. You know, sort of Kenilworth type thing.
Yeah.
It's arranged by a pupil of Philip Wilby. Just to put you in the picture, Phil came to the panel. Philip Wilby is either chairman or the president, or he's quite high up in the Arthur Bliss Society.
Right.
I'm not sure whether Arthur Bliss was one of his teachers or not. There must be some big connection there. I noticed just a couple of days ago that Phil has orchestrated a viola concerto that Arthur Bliss left in sketch form or you know, piano form. So it's going to be an orchestral premiere, world premiere, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So Phil came to the panel suggesting that we celebrate Arthur Bliss in some ways. Yeah. Now, some of these choices might seem slightly strange, in as much as there are Belmont variations available, Kenilworth, you know, and Checkmate as well. So, but there was recently, Black Dyke have done an Arthur Bliss CD, which John Wilson, the orchestral conductor, conducted on, and there are some new arrangements. So this Royal Palaces music has been arranged by a guy called Michael Halstinson, who's a pupil of Phil's, and Phil's overseen this and helped sort of, you know, titivate it and sort of, you know, help Michael with the thing just to make sure it was appropriate. And then that's the third section. The second section is some film music, Adam Zero, which Bob Charles has arranged. Well, see, the strange thing about Adam Zero, and again, I thought this was quite opposite. When Checkmate came out, when Checkmate was used way back in the 70s as the finals piece at London, I was playing at Whitburn at the time. I was only a teenager. And we didn't qualify, right? But New Mains Band, which was quite local to Whitburn, you know, half an hour away, they qualified. And I remember my dad and I going and having a listen to them. Yeah. And I'd never heard this music before, ever. Nothing. And this Checkmate, I just blown away by it, right? Yeah. And as a consequence of that, I bought an LP as was there was no CDs or bugger all at the time. It's lucky it's not a wax cylinder. I bought an LP, and on one side of the LP was the ballet music from Checkmate, which included a lot of other dances that weren't
excluded from this.
Yeah, they weren't in the suite for brass band, which was arranged by Eric Ball. On the other side of that LP was Adam Zero. Right? So green as grass, teenager, trying to get to know Checkmate.
Yeah.
So you start listening to that, you turn the LP over, start listening to Adam Zero. Then you start listening to other stuff. Things to come. Right? But film music. You start listening to things like A Colour Symphony, which he wrote, which is fantastic music. Right?
It is.
So the point I'm trying to make is that yes, there are arrangements, but they're done well. You know, Bob's done a good job on the Adam Zero. Eric Ball's obviously done a good job on Checkmate.
Yeah.
You hopefully try and point banders into music that they would never normally come across, right?
There's nothing wrong with a good arrangement.
No, there isn't. But what you're doing then is you are educating people to listen to quality music.
You are.
Right? Even if it's going back to its original form, right?
Yeah.
So if you're learning how to play Checkmate, and you're not just learning from a brass band recording, you're learning from a leading orchestra and a leading conductor, right?
Yeah.
Proper conductors, right? Real. And surely you can learn more from listening to that sort of music. I'm hoping that people, and there will be a lot of people, have no idea even who Arthur Bliss is, right? And I'm hoping that they will cotton on to these and explore some music that takes them a bit deeper into proper music.
Yeah.
So that's the Bliss stuff. Top section, Symphony in Two Movements, Eddie Gregson. Great piece. Never been used before.
It's quite long, isn't it?
It is quite long. Phil Morris didn't seem to be too concerned this time.
Well, there is one less band this year, isn't there?
But I mean the piece is longer, so I mean I've seen that it might cancel each other. He seems quite happy with it. I mean we have been, if he wants to knock it back time wise, that's his prerogative. So those are the pieces. I think there's quality stuff there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that people will have learned their lesson as to decry the usefulness of it. It's a bit like watching when these test pieces get announced. It's everybody turns into Goldilocks.
Yeah.
The bloody porridge is too hot or too cold or too easy or too hard or not. It's never just right.
No.
So I think maybe people are just keeping their powder dry until they. I have heard things said about Checkmate.
Well, I was going to come on to that.
Go on.
Some people have private messaged me saying they think it might be too hard. What do I think? I don't think it's too hard at all. It's placed right. It's correct because all these bands in the finals in the first section, all are in a gnat's air away from being in the championship section.
Yep.
So they should be able to play these pieces. Now, having said that, it's not easy to play. I know it isn't. I've played it. It's
not, but it's the sort of piece you sort of relish working on, though, wouldn't you?
Oh,
I know that the last movement became a bit of a war horse for entertainment contest finales and stuff, and it's brilliant stuff. If you ever get a chance to watch the ballet, it is on YouTube. It's fantastic. Watching the ballet. I mean, it's brutal stuff.
Is it Ceremony of the Red Bishops? One of the slow movements. That is very, very difficult.
Yeah, it is. It's hard as most slow movements are. But I think that the standard has got to be kept in the first section. We've talked about this before, where for a while, and we just talked about it earlier on, these pieces became too easy. The first section was lulled into a false sense of security by having easy pieces. Now they're looking for them. And again, they're not liking these pieces that are going to test them. This is why we need to reorganise things. If you look back at when the first section started, 1992, right?
Yeah.
here's a few pieces that were chosen in the first sort of dozen years for the first section for areas and finals. Okay,
Yeah.
and think about putting these in front of first section bands now. So areas: Forest of Dean, Derek Bourgeois; Ballyford Band, Joe Horowitz for the areas. There's a piece by Arthur Butterworth, Passacaglione, a theme of Brahms.
Oh, what a wonderful piece that is.
It's a great piece. I mean, again, and you're talking about, a real composer.
Oh, yeah.
Finals pieces. These were used all in the first section in the early days. Journey into Freedom.
Ooh.
Essence of Time.
One of our favourites,
right? That. Salute to Youth.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not picking stuff that's out the realms of possibility.
No.
If you're aiming to be a championship section band, you should be able to play Checkmate.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to be striving back to. And I think the way we got to get back to picking hard test pieces as it goes up through the sections.
Yeah.
We talked about this with Duncan about having, pieces with tunes, then pieces with solos and things with a bit more intricacy and building things up through the sections. Yeah, we get that. When we get up to first section standard, there's got to be a bit of rigour about the pieces.
Yeah.
Completely agree. There are certain pieces that have been chosen that were just not fit for purpose. We know that.
I must admit, if Checkmate was an area piece, I'd be a little bit worried. But because it's a finals piece, like I say, they should be ready for going up, them bands.
Yeah. We have to keep testing. I think we have to try and keep the standard, get the standard back.
Yeah.
We know what the problems are. There are fundamental problems with playing standards.
Yeah.
Right up the way through. And we've got to try and address that and get it going again. So I'm quite happy with those. Let's see what happens. But I just hope people don't start. It's always dangerous, isn't it? You make your comments before you play, and then all of a sudden the keyboard goes silent after you.
Yeah.
After you've played.
Yeah.
Keep your powder dry.
That's it's been a good roundup, that, Sandy, for me. Yeah. I've enjoyed it. I'm sorry to the listeners if we had to talk about things going on in banding, and some of it is quite unsavoury. But we felt the real need to talk about that, and we've done that. So thank you to our listeners. We'll be back for more very shortly. We've got lots of programmes planned out, Sandy and myself.
Yeah.
So if you need to leave a message for us, or anything that you do want us to talk about, please do on the Facebook page, or email us at smithandgrezzy, AND, @gmail.com. So for now, that's over and out from us, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.